We're back live with you tonight. Thanks for staying on. The IEC has reconfirmed that Home Affairs branches will remain open for the duration of the elections for ID applications and collections. The move is aimed at resolving challenges with cases which require supporting documents. The offices will also extend their hours, opening at 8 a.m., closing at 9 p.m. Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi joins us now for more on that. Minister, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. Some of the areas of concern, particularly in Home Affairs departments here in the city of Johannesburg, where printers either offline or either malfunctioning. What could have been the challenge that would have led to that degree of unpreparedness, I suppose, for the late applications?
Good evening, Ntabo. Good evening to the listeners and viewers, and thank you very much for having me. There's no level of unpreparedness, Tabo. The truth of the matter is that our systems are clogged. They've been overwhelmed by people who are coming to do things last minute. You will remember, Tabo, that for the past 6 weeks, starting from April, the 6th of April, we're opening Home Affairs offices every Saturday for 6 weeks for people to come and collect their IDs. But people started coming in large numbers yesterday, even today. They've clogged our offices, they've clogged the systems, and the systems are very slow because they are overwhelmed. Just to give you an example, as I'm speaking to you now, because you spoke about offices in the city, I'm sure you are talking about Johannesburg, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. As I'm speaking to you now, let's take an example of the Randburg office. On a normal day, during the ordinary course of events during the year, with no elections inside, people who come to apply for temporary identification certificate are usually 10 per day. Today we have 423. As I'm speaking to you, by 8:30, the Randburg office was still having 100 people in there, still waiting to be served. And they will have to serve all of them. Our Orlando office, the office in Orlando, in Soweto, as I'm speaking to you now, has still got 73 people who are waiting to be served. Now, ordinarily, during the normal course of events, Home Affairs serves 12,000 people every day. Yesterday only, we served 27,000 people, which means the normal amount of people we usually serve has more than doubled. And that's why we are increasing the working hours. That's why we are asking for mobiles to come in and help them. And, Tabo, we have to stop certain functions.
Yeah.
The systems in Home Affairs are not only used by us. They are used by all the banks in the country. They are used by private security industry regulatory authority. They are used by SASA. They are used by CIPC, yes, the property, the Company and Intellectual Property Commission.
Yeah.
We even have to ask them because somehow, for some reason we don't yet understand, their activities were today heightened, whereby they also clogged the system. We asked them to take it easy because their issues are not urgent. And we had to cut them off because there was not much response from them. So we had to cut their services. This evening, I'm still waiting for my officials to tell me what other services can we cut so that the system only serves for people who collect their temporary identification certificates and who collect their IDs.
So to the layman on the street, we always ask this question. Others might say, even before of course, the clogging up now, when you go to Home Affairs, you either hear that the system is offline or the printer is not working. And is it as simple as that, or as simple as there's a special deployment of equipment that you could put out, especially knowing that you've got these 3 days where you're going to see those numbers jump up the way that they have of people wanting to get their temporary IDs?
That was in the past, Tabo. You know that it has been a perennial problem. I even made a name for it. That is the first thing. The issues of CETA connectivity and all that. you may be aware that last year we've even called in CSIR to help us, and they've done a lot. It has markedly improved. And last week, of course, we got into trouble. That trouble is over. So we are not talking about what ordinarily happens in Home Affairs. The present one, there's no system downtime. The present one is the cloaking of the system. That's what I'm telling you. And we are aware that, yes, last week for some 3 days or so, we did have this perennial problem of Home Affairs, but it was resolved immediately, because we even asked CSIR to second one of their scientists in IT to help, and that has helped a lot. But the one that is happening yesterday and today is the cloaking of the system by last-minute applications. Yes.
We've got 27 million people, we are told, that are registered to vote. Are you able, with your own system, to tell what would be the impact of that backlog? I'm asking that to lead to the next question that says, well, I've been denied my constitutional right to vote because Home Affairs systems were just clogged up.
All the 27 million people are mentioned because they've all been given their IDs. The 27 million people all appear on the National Population Register. They are all on the voters' roll. The reason that IEC was able to announce that the voters' roll have got 27 million people is because all of them were confirmed by Home Affairs. The people who are talking about may be part of that 27 million, but these are people who lost their IDs or misplaced them, or it got damaged in one way or the other. These are not new applications at all. It's people who are looking for temporary identification certificate because they are replacement. A new person who comes to Home Affairs to apply for the first time cannot get a TIC, a temporary identification certificate. We only give to people who are already in our systems. That's number one. Number two, people who are coming to collect their IDs are those who have applied for these IDs long ago. Our IDs take 13 days. And the moment the ID is ready, we send you as SMS and say, come and collect your IDs. So these are people who never came. They are coming now, last minute. That's really the information I'm trying to give to you and the public.
And how do you plan then to ameliorate that particular challenge? You are saying up until 9 p.m. tomorrow, if you are still clogged up, like we are talking now, 100 that are still in a queue, 73 that are still in a queue, it's a case of, unfortunately, you were late, so you will not be able to vote.
No, we are not saying so. We are remaining open, as I said, and we'll serve all the people. Tomorrow, today we're supposed to open at 9, because ordinarily we extended yesterday and today to 7. But because of what happened yesterday, we extended to 9. And as I'm telling you, some offices are still open. Even tomorrow, we were planning to open at 9, but we'll open for as long as people are there in our offices. The question is, for how long will IEC be prepared to open? In other words, as long as IEC is still allowing people to vote, Home Affairs will be open to serve them and give them the temporary identification certificates. And as I'm saying, it cannot be given to somebody who's coming for the first time. It's not a first issue. Yeah. It's a replacement of a person who has got an ID and has misplaced it or is damaged or something has happened to it, or he has even given it to Machonyisa. Yeah. I'm sure you are aware that some people leave their IDs with Machonyisa. Yes. And they will come and say, no, yeah, that this in French assigned me. Even those who have given IDs to Machonyisa, we are still prepared to give them the temporary identification certificate. Now, if they made use of the period we gave for the past 6 weeks, we won't be faced with this. The problem with members of the public, we like last minute. Every time we do last minute. I'm sure you are aware that even tomorrow, voting station will be open at 7. I'm sure you're aware
indeed,
of that.
Indeed.
But I can tell you some will still be chock-a-block this time with people coming in just before the closing period. I'm sure you know that we've experienced it almost every year.
All right.
Yes, and that's what Home Affairs is experiencing.
Let's talk about that opening time. I mean, I don't have a reliable source for this information. I heard it from one of the people standing in a queue anecdotally saying the reason why doors were not open, I think he had been waiting outside in the queue for an hour, is that officials are using the urgency of this and the pressure of this backlog to negotiate salaries. And so that's why they are going on a little bit of a go slow. What do you know about that?
No. I don't know about that, but all we know is that sometimes our officials, looking at the crowd outside, they sit inside to have a meeting to plan. And it's during that period when people are anxious and fighting. If they just don't plan, they just open up, there may be chaos. When they have to plan for people and say, look, we already have so many people in the queue, let's make sure that we develop a strategy or we change our systems, and they call a meeting. And of course, our officials will fight. I mean, members of the public will fight. We have never come across a situation where officials are refusing to open. Actually, at the head office, we have removed all the senior people at the head office. We have sent them to provinces to make sure that they supervise this work. And they've been there from yesterday all over the country. We have got DDGs, we have got the DG himself and his DDGs running around. We are at the lowest level, we are sending chief directors who will make sure that work is going on normally in each and every province.
Here's a complex situation. One of the reports that we were running yesterday were some residents evicted in February from the container homes that were meant for COVID-19. And they say during their eviction in February, they lost their documentation, and they still don't have it even today. What happens in that instance?
No, if they've got
this was in Alex.
Documentation. Yeah, when you say documentation, you mean IDs, isn't it?
It seems, yes, and any other identification documentation.
Yes. Any person who has got an identification document will appear on the National Population Register. So even if those documents are lost, we'll still replace them because we've got them on the register. Take, for instance, the Western Cape, Thabo. You are aware that they are always having fires there in Western Cape. People's documents burned down, but because we have got them on the National Population Register, we are able to replace them. Just this evening, we're arranging in the Western Cape for a team of people to go to Swellendam, where people have their IDs burned down, and we are sending trucks there. They'll be there by 7 o'clock in the morning, and they'll start giving them IDs, but only those whose documents burned down because of the fires, or any other person who have lost their IDs in whatever way. So those people are talking about in Alex, there's no reason why they can't get TICs. Unfortunately, because what happened to them is not a natural disaster, they still have to pay 70 rand. Those who were involved in affected by a natural disaster, we waiver their fees. I signed documents to waiver their fees so that they don't have to pay anything.
All right, Minister, let's move on to the other questions then on immigration. We believe on Saturday there was an intelligence-led operation that saw, 28 Bangladeshi nationals being intercepted at the Tambo International Airport. I asked the question, from a country like Dubai, how do they manage to come to South Africa with, as BMA says, visas that have not been verified? Well, one actually came in without a visa at all. Is there no collaboration? Does Dubai not have a original copy of what a South African visa is with all the protection features that they need to look for? Or are these fake visas at that level of accuracy?
Thabo, it's not a country that's responsible for that. It's airlines. We are not working with Dubai. They came via Emirates. It's the Emirates Airlines. And most airlines will not be able to see a fake visa because they believe it's the job of that country where they are going to what you call to authenticate visas, unless they are prepared to help us. Let me give you an example. If you remember, Thabo Bester and a partner, when they were found in Tanzania, Thabo Bester was having an American visa. I'm sure you remember that.
Yes.
There's no way for us to know whether this is authentic or not. Only Americans could. And we took it to the American embassy, and they said, this is not our document. But ordinarily, when people see it, they believe this one is American. That's the problem, you know. The other problem is many countries in the world, what they consider very seriously is the passport, which is controlled by ICAO, International Civil Aviation Authority, and it must be machine readable, etc. But visas, because they differ from country to country, it's not very easy for airlines to know that this visa is fake. For instance, sometimes we are able to identify it with serial numbers. There's no way that anybody outside Home Affairs will understand and know our serial numbers.
Yeah, and we saw, for example, with the one issue of the bus going through the border with minors, where there was a conversation that would say there could be sanctions meted out at the bus company for having allowed that kind of situation to occur. Is it the same with airlines?
Yes, of course. Any conveyancer, the Act says a conveyancer, whether it's a taxi or a bus or an airline, if you bring in people who are illegal, like those children where it was an illegal conveyancing of people, we charge the conveyancer, the airline or the taxi or the bus or whatever, we charge them 15,000 rand for every passenger they are bringing in that manner, and they must take them back at their own cost. That's what we usually do. Now, the problem is, in the past, Home Affairs was not necessarily collecting that money. The Auditor General even queried. Now, with the advent of BMA, now that there is BMA, we told BMA that there are bus companies which have been fined. They never pay the money. Don't allow them in. And we discussed with the cross-border authority in transport, and they were saying, no, that will breach the agreement with the neighboring countries because these are cross-border licenses. And I said, no. We said, no. If we have charged somebody money because they brought people illegal in the country, they ought to pay it. If they didn't pay it, we don't care what agreements are there. We won't allow them in the country. Let them go to a court of law. Now, many of them realize they are going to lose a lot of money because they were doing it, Tabo, because of money. Really, when you bring illegal people, it's because they've paid you. Now, when they realize that we are going to charge them 15,000 rand per passenger, they realize they will no longer have profit. No, so they are stopping that. And the Border Management Authority is very strict on that one.
And with Bangladesh being in India, of course, is there a bilateral relationship, collaboration when it comes to illegal immigration that you have there being in the BRICS bloc?
With Bangladesh?
Yes.
It's not in the BRICS. It's not in the BRICS bloc. But anyway, look, when you meet ambassadors of these countries, they will tell you that, look, we have not encouraged any of our citizens to come here into our country illegally. They throw the ball back into our court and say it's your issue. We have not encouraged them. Some of the people, like I met the Pakistani ambassador. He told me that, no, some of the people who come illegally in your country, Pakistan doesn't also want them because they are rascals. So if your country allows them, then it's your own problem.
Yeah.
So that's why we are dealing with this matter harshly on our own, because no country will ever agree that I've sent people illegally into a country. That one, there's no country that will ever accept.
I'm mixing my capitals. I meant to say Delhi and Bangladesh is not the same thing. But
Delhi in India.
Yes.
Same as India.
Yeah.
Same as India, they'll tell you, no, we've never encouraged anybody to come to our country illegally. We are a law-abiding citizen. We tell them to apply for visas. If they don't, the ball is back in your court. Deal with them the manner in which you deal with any criminal or rascal or whatever, whoever is breaching your laws and regulations.
So is that the arrangement then between countries on how you deal with people who forge your documents to try and get into your country illegally? They put that responsibility squarely at your feet. I mean, is there no arrangement, for example, with the changes that you want to put in now in the white paper, where the first country that you would have skipped and come and end up in South Africa in the third country, where there is an arrangement of how those people are dealt with?
Look, as I've said, Thabo, no country will come to you and said, I brought my citizens into a country illegally. They will say, we don't know about it. We've never sent anybody to a country. The only agreements we make with countries is about whether you give them visa-free status, or you demand visas from them, or you give visas, you give visa-free status only to certain categories, like public servants, etc., etc. Those are the deals you make with countries. But for people who come illegally, the country will wash their hands off and say, we did not know about it. We did not encourage, see how you deal with them. They are on their own. That's what they will tell you. In simple language, those people are on their own, see how you deal with them.
Does this represent, I suppose, a changing of the tide with the introduction of the BMA, I beg your pardon, in addressing the issue of illegal immigration?
Absolutely, definitely. There's no question about it. Remember, BMA is only for 18 months that they've got border guards. They've already stopped more than 180,000 people from coming here illegally. As I'm saying, the buses, we have discovered that even that some of the illegal people in the country were not fence jumpers. They were not jumping the fence. They were coming through some of the buses, especially from Zimbabwe. There's a bus called Rimvi bus service, which we discovered they've been fined many times, but they were not paying the fine because nobody was doing anything. When the BMA came into being, they said, well, you're no longer allowed to come here. You cannot come into our country, pay that money. If you don't pay the cent, you will no longer come. Now, obviously, all of a sudden, they realize that their profits are being eaten off. And we tell them, we put the onus on your shoulders not to bring anybody who has got no documents. If we find anybody without any documents, we charge you the 15,000 rand per person, and you take them back at your own cost. There's no bus company or no conveyancer or no transport system that will survive that trouble. So the coming of the BMA really is a game changer, definitely.
Let's leave it there for tonight. Minister, much appreciated, and thank you for coming on. Minister at Home Affairs there, Dr. Motsoaledi, on the extended working hours and dealing with that backlog to allow those who want their temporary identification certificates, but also on the progress being made in dealing with illegal immigration in the country.